Hello everybody, how are we all doing on this wonderful afternoon? My name is Dark3. Now I don't talk to you guys very often, but you know, I thought I'd come back to the show and talk about various things that I think you guys would be interested in during the day. Now, a couple of weeks back we had a thing about Deus Ex on Rock Paper Shotgun, where they were talking about Adam Jensen and the possibility of them exploring his gender. Now, don't get me wrong, gender is a cool thing to talk about. However, in Deus Ex, do you really need to focus on that? This is my big question. Because Deus Ex is focused heavily, and I mean heavily, on the economics, the psychological aspect, the ethics, everything based around human augmentation and the organizations that surround it. For example, in Deus Ex Human Evolution, you're Adam Jensen, who's been augmented technically against his will, and you are now basically working for one of the biggest corporations for human augmentation. Now, the big question for me, as a big fan of Deus Ex, is whether human augmentation is, well, one, ethical. Is it fine to augment ourselves beyond what we are at the moment? Is it going too far, making ourselves have better limbs than we currently do? Like, is it okay to have your arm replaced willingly with something which is more effective at what it does? Or would you just have a normal arm, same functionality as your current arm, nothing better, nothing worse? And that's how I see Deus Ex as its main premise. You've got the do you augment people who don't need it, or do you only augment those that do need it? Then you've got the other aspect as well of the whole. If you do augment yourself, and I mean Adam Jensen's not the standout case, he's more of the antithesis of this, where you need to have medication when you've been augmented. You're stuck on medication for the rest of your life, otherwise your body rejects the augmentation. You've got huge issues there, where you see in the main universe itself that people who've had augmentations, they've obviously come from something, they've been well off at some point, but not the addiction, but the need for neuropozyne has had major effects on them, and they've actually ended up going bust and are now homeless and have a dire need for that drug to live and survive. But you've got all these overhanging questions of, like I said, do you augment people who don't need it? Is it fine to augment these people and then charge inordinate amounts for the drug that keep them living? Is it fine to augment people who are they've essentially died? Is it fine to augment them to bring them back from death? And that's the big thing that Adam Jensen questions throughout the entirety of Human Revolution, and quite possibly through Mankind Divided. The fact that he is now a man who's had this decision thrust upon him. He's not made the decision himself to have his legs and arms and various body parts. He's got both his eyes replaced as well. I mean, he's had so much changed in him, and it's a big part of his struggle throughout Human Evolution to accept what's happened to him, all these changes he's had, and he's not had an active choice in everything. And I feel that that's something that this article didn't focus on as much as it could have. Sure. Do we know if certain parts of him below the waist have been replaced, or if he's missing them? No, we don't know. Do we need to know? No, not really. We don't necessarily need to know what's going on between his legs. We just know that he's had a traumatic incident. He was basically dead. He got brought back, and hence the whole thing. I never asked for this, you know. I feel that gender is something that's completely redundant. The economic thing, the whole corporations ruling everything, and coming forward a bit for Mankind Divided, the entire premise that mechanical apartheid. Now, I get that some people don't like the use of mechanical apartheid. It's not South Africa. You don't need to call it that. Well, technically it is. It's segregation. And it's based on, in some cases, attributes that you have no control over. Some of these people may have willingly augmented themselves, and some of them, in the case of Adam Jensen, won't have actively chosen to augment themselves. So, it's the big overarching thing for Deus excuse me, the big overarching thing for Deus Ex is all the political strife, the economic strife, decisions that people have had. I mean, just looking at the trailer for Mankind Divided, it follows primarily a woman who's got an augmented arm, and she was one of the people who, spoiler alert, went nuts during the ending to Deus Ex Human Revolution. It basically came to the situation that a load of people had their chips in their brain to control their augmentations go haywire. They went absolutely nuts and started doing major, they started attacking people. Like in this case, the woman attacked her husband or significant other, and he became scared of her. And understandably, when that sort of thing happens, people become terrified. And those who weren't augmented saw the people who were augmented doing this sort of thing, and of course you're going to be scared. You're going to make these connections. It's similar to what it is at the moment. You've got all of these Muslim extremists and Islamic extremists doing these terrorist attacks, and the animal part of your brain, the basic part of your brain, just goes, well, if these people are doing this, then what's to say that these others won't? And so you kind of connect the entire religion with the extremists. And in this case, they take the entire augmented populace and connect to those that went nuts and attacked everyone. It wasn't every augmented person that did this. However, people make the connection, and then they go, well, that must have been the situation for the majority of them, then all of these have the capacity. It's happened once, what's to say it won't happen again? And that's a big thing, and I think that'll be one of the big parts for Deus Ex Mankind Divided. Adam Jensen, a heavily augmented person who's now working with a team which are very much against augmentations by the sounds of it, trying to fight those of his own kin. Now, I get the feeling that at some point you're going to have a similar situation to the original Deus Ex, where you get to a point and you have to choose who are you going to side with. Are you going to side with, in Mankind Divided's case, the people who are against augmentations? And are you going to actively fight augmentations? Or are you going to join the side which fights for people who are augmented? Or possibly there could be a third faction, those who don't really see it from either side. They can accept both sides, but they want coexistence between everyone. And that was similar to Deus Ex 1. If you've not played the original Deus Ex, I really recommend you play it. It was released in, I think, 2001? It's pretty old now, but it's still a classic game. Definitely one of my top games. But it followed J.C. Denton, and you basically, partway through the game, your brother, as turned out, has been working with the terrorist organisation, and it comes like that. There's a chance that the corporation that you're working for, the global organisation you're working for, UNATCO, may not be all it seems, and it may not necessarily be that the terrorists are the bad guys. So you make a decision and you decide, do you want to work for UNATCO or do you want to work for the terrorists? And I feel that's what this is going to come down to. I mean, the end of Deus Ex Human Revolution had the 4 decisions. I can't remember what the 4th one was, but you had the choice of disabling everyone's augmentations, and in a lot of cases that could have killed people. You could have made it so that what was it? You release propaganda that augmentations aren't what they're cracked up to be. Release propaganda that the corporations are controlling all of the medication and making it so that people are struggling. And I can't remember what the other one was. But you've got your choices, and we've all got choices to make. And I feel that that's where Deus Ex has its strengths. The ethical questions, the psychological questions, the corporate questions, the economic questions. It has so many questions, and it's such a, I guess you could say, an adult topic, that gender really is a, I don't see it as something that needs to be explored in the Deus Ex universe. And I'm going to be quite honest here. Usually speaking, the people that are so intent on wanting things to grow up, in quotes, to become more adult, to discuss gender, these are the same people that get majorly hardcore fucking triggered, for lack of a better word. They get so butthurt about these things, discussing something that isn't gender, but do something that's so adult and so out there, discussing all of these things where you have to actively think and have your preconceptions and everything you originally thought questioned. And that's where Deus Ex's strengths lie. Deus Ex is not a question about, oh yeah, I already think this. It's, this is the situation, what do you think will happen? And that's Deus Ex. Big questions, making you question yourself. If you leave Deus Ex having questioned yourself, at least on one of your thoughts, the game has done its job. But there you go. My name's Darko3, those are my opinions on this whole Deus Ex stuff. I'm looking forward to Mankind Divided. If you haven't already played the original Deus Ex or Human Revolution, I really recommend you go check those games out. They are both classic games. Deus Ex 1, definitely one of my favourite games. Human Revolution, also up there, but not quite in my top 5. I'll do a video on that at another point. I'd ignore Invisible War. It's crap. That's from a Deus Ex fan's opinion, but there we go. But yes, if you have any opposing views or you agree with what I'm thinking, put them in the comments below. Always nice to see what you guys think. But other than that, thank you very much for tuning in to this video. Hopefully you enjoyed, and if you didn't, let me know why. And I will see you all very soon for some more videos. Goodbye.